Theorizing that podcast audiences wanted to listen to two grown men talk about time travel, Nate Bowden and Brian Martin started a show dedicated to Quantum Leap. Together, they explore NBC's revival of the franchise, starring Raymond Lee and Caitlin Bassett, and its connections to the original series. They also examine spin-offs, such as novels and comics, as well as some mirror images in the form of television shows and movies that share creative DNA with the adventures of Sam Beckett and Ben Song. And so Nate and Brian find themselves leaping from topic to topic, striving to make sense of it all and hoping each time that their next episode will be the one that goes viral.
Oh boy, it's a Quantum Leap podcast. My name is Nate, and canceling his Peacock subscription is Brian Martin.
I can't do that. WrestleMania is still on Peacock.
I am. Until football season rolls around and I have to pay to watch on Sunday night, I don't have any reason to have Peacock.
Oh, I guess, or until they give us a second season of that Natasha Lyonne show, right? Poker Face.
Oh, God, you got me.
We ever going to get that? I don't know.
I mean, it was renewed.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, that gives me hope for the future.
Folks, this is our 50th episode, most of which were about Quantum Leap, some of which were about sliders.
And one of which was about Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed that episode. I hope that you guys go back and listen to that if you didn't.
The previous episode where we watched a weird-ass pilot for a Mr. and Mrs. Smith show you never heard of that happened to star Scott Bakula.
Yeah.
I'm sure those of you in the know have heard by now,
right?
But NBC has dropped the axe on our beloved Quantum Leap.
Yeah, I think we're kind of late to the game on this. I think most other people have covered it by now, but...
Well, we, like America, needed some time to mourn, you know?
We had to let it gestate a little bit, come to grips, maybe. I don't know. Are you surprised, I guess is the first question.
I'm going to refer back to what I said when the show came back from its hiatus. And that's that I felt like a 10 o'clock time slot move.
That's right.
Was a death sentence. My feeling at the time was that NBC was burning through the remaining episodes and just wanted to get it over and done with, because when you move a show to 10 p.m. and your audience doesn't even really know it.
And then you run 5 episodes in 4 weeks.
Yeah, what's going to happen? The ratings dropped substantially after that move.
Right.
And it's a real shame because the show, ratings-wise, was off to a pretty strong start this season. And, of course, if you listen regularly, you know Nate and I felt like this season was extremely strong as well. So, on the one hand, it's nice to see the show go out at the top of its game. On the other, it just figured out what the game was.
I was going to say, it's a short game. There's a lot of potential left, a lot of, what do they say, meat on the bone.
Oh, for sure. Like, the idea of Ben and Addison leaping together throughout time, that's terra incognita for Quantum Leap. I really wanted to see that.
Yeah.
The best stories always leave you wanting a little bit more, I guess. Sometimes it's inadvertent.
Right. Well, I'm going to pour some whiskey in mourning this time.
Well, you see what I got over here.
What do you got?
This is Baja Blast. From Taco Bell. I acquired it approximately 4 hours ago. And that's where I'm at. That's where my headspace is now.
I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the color of that beverage.
Lukewarm Baja Blast. I wouldn't be comfortable with this color if I weren't drinking it. This is a shade of green that is not naturally occurring.
No. Yeah,
You have to create it in a laboratory. You cannot find it in the natural world anywhere.
Whatever gets you through these times, I guess.
These hard times.
Yeah, I think that you're right, what we kind of surmised based on the network's activity. So when I read the headline, I wasn't that surprised.
Yeah.
I guess you get in a bit of a feedback loop, right? Mm-hmm. You get in your own little bubble here and you're following subreddits and fan groups and stuff like this. And most of the information I get about, what are people thinking about this show? People that really love it, and then like these weird haters that hate for the strangest reasons.
Sure. Sure.
You almost can't take them seriously for the things that they're complaining about. So all in all, I'm thinking, okay, NBC will come to their senses. It'll come back.
Yeah, the thing that gave me hope was that there's nothing else in NBC's current offerings that remotely resembles this show.
Right.
It's unique, and I just think we're living in an era of broadcast TV where that's not rewarded, right?
Yeah.
It's a network. They have to make decisions like this. NBC, yeah, they dropped the axe on Quantum Leap, but a decade and a half ago, they kept 30 Rock going for like 5 seasons. You know, I look at things like that, it's give and take. Networks are going to network, but it is unfortunate. I asked a question at Trivia last night, and the question was, when was the last time a non-cable primetime drama series won the Emmy for Best Drama?
Ooh. Okay. Give me a second. The Blacklist?
No. 2006, 24, season 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a long time ago.
Almost 20 years to find the last time a network series won the Best Drama Emmy. And so, especially in this sort of environment, being different is not always rewarded. For the networks, it's not always a reward, right?
Right.
That's why there are 15 Chicago shows.
Quantum Leap Chicago.
Right, we could have done it. Just move the whole thing to Chicago. I mean, I thought we could move the whole thing to Hawaii. That would probably be pretty good. But for whatever reason, people who watch network TV want to just tune in whenever they do and not really be able to parse out what specific show they're watching because they all are kind of the same thing.
Right. And I think that we're guilty of the same. I think there's enough evidence in the recordings that we've done over these 50 episodes. We started off saying, well, this looks like an NBC show. This looks like network television. Is this cheap? You know, we can
Right.
I mean, that's how we came out the door. And I think that we kind of got spoiled as The Sopranos and Breaking Bad came around and started this golden age of cable television and drama and serialized storytelling. Movie actors were coming to TV.
Yeah.
And the networks never had the good shows, right? The best shows. They were on FX. They're on HBO.
Right. If HBO was the fine dining, if HBO was the Ruth's Chris of television.
And they were for a time.
CBS is the Golden Corral.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Right.
The quality's going to be low, but you know you're going to like something.
But you almost don't want to be seen there.
Right. And we're just going to shovel it down your gullet. As much of it as you can handle, and then we'll give you one extra shovel. This sounds bitter. I mean, this is not something that Quantum Leap triggered for me, and probably not you either, Nate.
No.
It's just something that becomes a fresh spot in the consciousness when something like this happens, when something that's a little bit outside of the norm of what we're seeing on network television gets the axe.
Yeah, I think that a stigma came with being a network show.
Yes.
I specifically didn't watch things that were on network, like The Blacklist that I mentioned, supposedly really good, but I was always like, yeah, but like network good.
Even good network shows, like when something's good, the network never wants to pull the plug on it, and it ends up going on too long. I'm thinking of a show like Scrubs, right, which had a really solid 5 seasons and then just plummeted.
The X-Files.
The X-Files. Oh, my God.
They wouldn't let that one go, would they?
No. Oof.
So which would you prefer? You want it to drag on? Or you want a premature death?
The only hope you get is when the creatives behind the show become bigger than the show itself or bigger than the network.
Right.
When they carry more clout. And I'm thinking of Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David.
And that's like the last time on network.
I would argue that Carlton Cuse and Damon Lindelof managed to do it with Lost. And they almost didn't get to do it with Lost because ABC was like, we're going to drive this thing out for 11 seasons if we can. And then the second the ratings started to take a hit and fans started to say, what is this crap? You're dragging this out. ABC got nervous and just handed it back over to Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse and said, how many episodes do you need? And they were like, 40? Okay. Starter pistol goes off, tell your story. And they did. So it becomes this war.
Yeah.
But to your actual question.
What was my question?
Do you prefer that it gets dragged out, or do you prefer short and sweet?
That one.
I mean, it's hard to say without the benefit of being able to see what Quantum Leap Season 3 would have been, or what Quantum Leap Season 4 would have been. I think that the way this show ended is perfect for what this show was. When I look at the finale for Quantum Leap, because that's what it is now, I think, okay, I think I can live with this. Thematically speaking, it was all about bringing these two people back together. Season 2, ultimately, that's what it was about. And that's what we got. And I think Season 2 resolved itself in a way that leveled the field.
Sure. I'll give them a lot of credit for that. And I think they knew they were on a bubble.
Yeah.
And somehow they split the difference on a series finale, season finale.
That's what makes
really pretty perfectly.
We talked a lot about how great that finale was, but when you think of it like, okay, are we getting renewed or are we not? We need to write a story that satisfies both possibilities. Can you imagine how hard that is?
Yeah, you got to give them credit for that. That could be incredibly difficult. You do have the added advantage, however, of every episode ending with a teaser.
Yes. It's easy to pick it up.
It's easy to finish a story and then a teaser for what's next. And now you've got the teaser that says, look, there's more story to tell. But it's also kind of was the end result of the entire Hannah Carson story arc, character arc.
And you think Ben got into the accelerator to save Addison, and Addison ultimately gets into the accelerator to bring Ben home.
Right.
I don't know. It works very well.
Then they recontextualize what home is.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's really a feat. You got to give them credit for that.
You give them this moment. It's not like, now that I'm going to say this, I really kind of wish it had been. It's not like Ben leaps in and he's in like a barber chair and then he looks up and the barber is Addison and she's leaped into this barber. It's not like some pedestrian thing. It's the bombing of Dresden, for God's sake.
Well, you have to give them an opportunity to run to each other and embrace.
Hold hands, and run off into adventure together.
Right.
You can't end something better than that, I don't think.
That's true. I mean, you could almost argue that that's how you would write the finale, except for all these people that absolutely have to have them get home.
Did original Quantum Leap not teach you?
Well, they didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't.
Yeah, it didn't. People look at that and think, oh, he would have made it home if it hadn't gotten canceled. And I've always looked at it like, you might be missing the point that Sam didn't want to come home, which is what we've talked about a lot.
Yeah, they're absolutely missing the point. Yeah. I mean, there's a large contingency of fans that not only expected Sam to come home, but expected that this series would bring him home.
Would bring Sam home, would bring Ben home. What is home for Sam? Like, he'd come back, his best friend's dead, his wife... Well, who knows?
What does his home even look like? It's been 30 years.
If I had originally left the 1990s and you wanted to pull me into the 2020s, I would be like, sir, I think I'm happy with my Soundgarden music. I'll be over here. In my preferred decade, thank you very much.
That's with the added hindsight of knowing what the 2020s were.
Right.
Which finale are fans going to have a bigger problem with? Because
that's funny.
The series finale of the OG series is not well regarded. I mean, they don't like the way that ends.
See, I was going to frame this question as which one was better, and you were like, which one are fans going to have the biggest problem with? I think your framing is probably the one to go with, though, as far as this question and how you think about this. Because ultimately, as we've learned from many finales, TV finales, what the creators intend and how the audience takes the finale can be two totally different things, and a finale can make or break a show in terms of how it's remembered.
Let's bring up Lost again.
Yeah, I mean, Lost, and that's one I feel people just completely misread. A lot of people just didn't get what happened there. One I think of a lot, Dexter. Game of Thrones is another one that is a recent-ish wound, right?
Yeah, I didn't watch that.
I happen to think that Breaking Bad should have ended 2 episodes before it did. Even
the penultimate episode is really good.
Ozymandias, when he gets in the car and leaves, should have been the last episode of that show. But instead it goes on and then you get this wish fulfillment finale that is just really bizarre in retrospect.
I don't know. I would consider that a finale that landed. And, like, which ones are the middle of the road finales as far as television goes. It's like,
There
really
aren't any.
is like, it's either good or it's not.
Think of Seinfeld. I mean, we talked about Seinfeld.
Oh, it's horrendous.
The finale of Seinfeld was just derided in its day.
I don't think anybody's come around on that.
That's what I'm saying, though. And like Quantum Leap's ending, despite it being pretty high concept for that show, a lot of people didn't like it, if only for that last line that flashes on the screen, Dr. Sam Beckett never returned home. That is it. Like, if it had said Dr. Sam Beckett came home the next day, I think people would have a totally different read on that finale.
Yeah, what would they think if they
Wouldn't
did that?
it be a betrayal of that character? Because Sam is moving from life to life. He doesn't get a lot of room to grow. He just has to adapt. By the end of the series, he's gone from being shunted around through time to understanding his life's purpose.
He really doesn't come to that conclusion until that final episode. And somebody almost has to tell him that he's been making these decisions himself.
Right, Bruce McGill. If you're going to get somebody to kind of give you sage advice, it's got to be Bruce McGill, guys.
Sure.
Is Bruce McGill dead? He's not.
No.
He's still alive.
No,
anyway,
he was just in Reacher, season 1.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He was in Reacher, the show your dad loves. And I mean your dad in all caps. Not your specific dad, but just dads love it.
The royal dad.
Yeah, the royal dad. I think the finale of Quantum Leap is bizarre, but wonderfully so.
Yeah.
Such a weird existential kind of episode for a show that was never about that. It's never about Sam. And suddenly you get a finale that's all about Sam.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a little bit jarring. So I personally am a proponent of the original Quantum Leap finale.
Unfortunately, you and I are in agreement on this. This really feels like a topic that we need to have.
Like a naysayer on?
A naysayer here, yeah, because I'm sure there's a valid argument to the other side.
We just can't consider it. Our brains won't let us consider it.
I try to, but I just think that Sam coming home almost doesn't work. There's too much finality to it. Mm-hmm. Some people think this is terrible because it wasn't necessarily meant to be a finale and there was going to be a season 6. And I'm just thinking, like, what do you do with a season 6 of that show? That show is done for me after that episode.
Yeah, what do you do next?
Nothing good is what I would say.
Sam met God. Isn't that the finale?
I think so.
Isn't that the end? Where do you go from here?
There are going to be people screaming at us that say there's a whole season 6 planned. Al was going to get in the accelerator and leap to look for Sam, and he's going to end up in this weird futuristic bar or something. They honestly had this worked out, and it's not good. It's not good, folks.
But honestly, it's moot because we didn't get it. You know, like it or not, the finale of Quantum Leap is the finale of Quantum Leap.
Yes, and I wouldn't want it, is my point.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good ending. Mm-hmm. The only real issues, and I think over the course of 50 episodes I've brought this up, but one, he specifically changed Donna's life to live with her for the rest of his life and decides not to come home. And then secondarily, it also ruins the conceit of MIA, which was the idea that they weren't supposed to be together. Time just kept putting this other guy in Beth's life, implying, look, this is the way it's supposed to go.
Sam couldn't change it. It was a lot like Ben trying to change Hannah's husband's fate, right? It's like one way or another, this thing has to happen.
Right.
So yeah, you got a point there.
I think people just forget that one of the ways that she connected with that other guy was to say that she was already considering leaving Al, and he never knew it. She says something to the effect of, how do you tell somebody that it's over when they're just about to ship out to war? She was ready to end it before he left, according to that story.
So Sam guilted her into staying.
More or less.
In the final moments of the show, he guilted her into staying and gave rise to Janice Calavici as well.
Yeah. The difference is, however, that this series finale for the revival, obviously new stories can be told. Not only new stories, but like in a whole new framing that we've never seen for this show.
Yeah, it leaves things in a much less ambiguous place. Unlike finale of the original Quantum Leap, you can see where this would go next. You can see the potential moving forward a lot clearer.
Yeah, but you can't, well, I'll speak for myself. I can see the potential, but I don't know what that looks like. I said it before. I don't know how you write that show. How do you do this with two protagonists?
Right.
Do they have a hologram? Do they need a hologram? Suddenly you've got a trio. Who is that hologram? And
gotta be Ian. Again, just biggest proponent for Ian as the hologram. I'll never back down from that.
No, I mean, that's probably what they should have done from the beginning, to be honest.
Speaking of support staff, though, I do want to touch on this real quick, and that's that it is a real shame to me that the collective world slept on Ernie Hudson until right after Ghostbusters Frozen Empire came out, and then suddenly everybody was like, he's almost 80? God damn! And I'm like, you could have been seeing him on Quantum Leap the whole time and been like that every week.
Yeah.
The man's a stud.
Yeah, I had no idea he was that old.
80, almost 80 years old. Shut the front door, man.
Yeah.
Everybody all of a sudden is like, ooh, Ernie Hudson. And then they cancel the show. I'm like, you got that Ernie Hudson energy? And you just pulled the plug on your Ernie Hudson show? Make him the hologram, for God's sake.
Well, we tried that. Yeah. I guess the next question is, do you have some kind of idea of what you thought that season might look like?
Season 3? No, not at all.
You too, huh? Yeah, I'm kind of lost.
Because how does it mean? What kind of people do they leap into? Does one of them leap into a socialite and the other one leap into her dog? That would be fun. You know?
You're really pushing this dog thing.
Look, we didn't get an animal episode. You know, Sam had the decency to leap into a chimp at one point, for God's sake.
At least a monkey.
And the man wore a diaper for a whole hour. The least we could do.
Yeah.
And, you know, they make outfits for dogs. Ben doesn't have to be walking around. Ben's the dog, obviously, in this scenario.
Oh, Ben's the dog in this scenario. Okay.
Well, I guess Addison could be the dog. That seems demeaning. Like, if we make Addison the dog, it seems demeaning. So Ben's got to be the dog. They make those little outfits for dogs, you know, so he can wear a little dainty outfit.
It's Halloween. He's dressed like a bumblebee.
We'll never get it. It's a shark eating a dog. That's the costume.
Yeah. That's okay. I'm not sure I want to see that episode anyway.
I have no idea what this show would have looked like. It seems hard to write.
Right, exactly. That's my point. It seems hard to write.
What if one of them achieves something and the other one doesn't? Does one of them leap and the other one stays there? You know, like, how does this work?
It feels like...
What are the rules?
What are the rules? What are the rules?
At this point, you can only expand into your own headcanon. And I feel like whether you meet that goal or not, you move on to the next.
Yeah.
I feel like they're supposed to be making their own choices. Actually, I don't know. They never got that confirmation that Ben was choosing where to go.
No.
He targeted his leaps, though. See, that whole first season is just, I think, where it...
Well, I guess the first season and everything we're talking about, the simple answer is that they could have explained whatever the struggle is away with a line of dialogue.
Yeah.
Ian added some new code to Ziggy. It's just like you can explain away whatever you do. And to be fair, the original series did this a lot, too, to accommodate the kind of story it needed to tell, right? The rules were played with loosely.
Yeah.
The only thing that is consistent is that this person is traveling back in time and taking the place of someone else and changing something.
Right. So what is it in your estimation that caused this show to fail?
Oh, I think it's all marketing and publicity.
All of it?
I think most of it is marketing and publicity.
Really?
I think it's hard to get traction with a show like this.
You don't think there's anything in the creative process that caused this to not work?
Are people not interested in time travel anymore? I do think it's largely the network. When your fans can't find it, there's a problem.
I would not discount that. I would not discount that at all.
I think that's the biggest problem with this show.
I don't want to speak ill of the dead here, but I think there's enough deconstruction that we could do to kind of figure out where it was lacking. Now, we've alluded to Mark Waid before, but this was evidently his favorite show, like his favorite written show.
Currently airing on television. Not of all time. Presumably not of all time.
Presumably not of all time.
But favorite currently airing television series.
And that was a real shock to me. I mean, we gave the second season...
Because Reacher exists?
You haven't watched Reacher,
I haven't
so
watched
you can
Reacher
sit
yet.
there and make fun of Reacher.
You yell or make noise, I'll tear your trachea out, and your last thought will be, holy shit, he really did it.
I gotta get on Reacher.
Until you watch some Reacher, and then you'll see. You'll see. That's nothing but a good time. Anyway, I guess my point is, it was very surprising to me that Mark Waid called this the best written show.
We've managed to find fault with it.
Yes. And
on occasion.
On occasion. And I think there's enough there to make some assumptions as to why this didn't work. And I think from the get-go, the concept in and of itself, from the very outset, there's too much in the present day.
Oh,
even
sure.
into second season. I think they struggled with that for 2 full seasons, making room for this cast that didn't need to be there.
I'm trying to come up with an example of a show that exists in this era that really just featured 2 recurring characters. And it's really hard. Even going back to the year 2000 or something, I'm thinking of like a show like CSI, where you've got 2 or 3 main characters, and then you've got 3 or 4 B-level characters that are all support. And that's kind of been the model for so long on most shows, right?
I guess the closest you could argue is that Law and Order has 2 leads in each half.
Yeah,
right?
even
so
that.
You've got your 2 detectives, and then you got your 2 DAs.
Yeah, but even that, there's still more than just 2 people. There's a shifting in setting. There's this feeling like you can't just stick with these 2 people for a whole hour of television. At some point, they've got to pass off to these other guys.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I just think that there wasn't enough congruence between the 2.
Mm-hmm.
And the main thing that we argued about all season long for the first season is you're not focusing where you need to focus, and nobody cares about the 2026, 2022, whatever it is. Nobody cared.
No, some of the plot lines, if you recall... I
can't find anybody that cares.
Some of the plot lines from the 2022, 2023, 2026 era in these 2 seasons of Quantum Leap, and most of this is from season 1, admittedly, was getting together to watch Real Housewives, Jen and Magic getting stuck in an elevator together, which if that is your plot, you have no reason for this to be happening.
Yes.
You know?
Right. They played a lot more with it in the second season, more effectively.
Yes.
But even then, you know, I speak with people that are just like, I don't care. I've got one friend that he watches the show and says, I don't care about Ian. They don't do anything.
Yeah.
He's not wrong. You know,
right.
I personally happen to like Ian as a character and enjoy when they're on the screen, but
I think Ian serves a valuable function, but
see, like, the argument would be that no, they don't.
Not to the story, not in service of any story. I think there's a specific function that Ian serves. It is not necessarily about any particular narrative as it pertains to the ongoing story of that show. It is a part of a narrative, but it's more of a cultural narrative.
You know who this person is. That's something.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's something. We don't really know who Magic is, do we?
No.
No. And certainly don't know who Jen is.
We can cobble some things together.
We can cobble. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You know who Jen is on Quantum Leap?
Tell me.
I think it was SNL who did those Stedman shorts, those animated Stedman shorts that were all about Oprah's husband.
I don't know this.
Oprah's husband is Stedman. In real life, that's her husband. And they did these animated shorts where he was like a super spy and a secret agent and doing all this jet setting around the world. But at the end of the day, he's still just Oprah's husband and nobody gives a shit, right?
That's
That's
funny.
who Jen is. The Swiss Army knife of a character. Let's make her a Swiss Army knife, but remove some of the personality of an actual Swiss Army knife.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say Jen killed the show.
You heard it here first, folks.
She's not the problem. She's the first bit of fat you trim away. I mean, come on, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like largely this show fails in structure. It doesn't give you the structure. I think the fans know what Quantum Leap is supposed to be, and it didn't live up to it. And the new viewers expect that this is what Quantum Leap is, but it's too disjointed.
It took a full season for literally all of us to figure out what we were watching and what they were producing. Like, it took them a whole season to figure it out. It took us a whole season to figure it out. And
it was too late.
And once we got to season 2, this is good. But I really do feel like the reason this got a season 2 was because NBC knew the strike was coming, that crew was ready to go, and they were able to hammer out 8 episodes before the strike started, which gave them something to put on in the fall.
We're rehashing history now, but they did extend to season 1. So somebody there had some hope for this show.
Yeah.
If I had to point to a reason people weren't watching this show outside of Tuesday night at 10, I think there was enough time that people were on the screen that you didn't care about.
Okay. I'm going to put something out there, too, and you can tell me your thoughts on this.
Okay.
Do you think that a time travel show like this, specifically like the second season of Quantum Leap, where we are very clearly building on narrative threads, do you think it's too complicated for your general network TV viewer? Do you think somebody could come in on episode 1 of this season, skip 2 weeks, and then come in on episode 4 and have the slightest idea what was going on? Let's just think the Hannah episodes, right?
Well, you would have to skip the right episodes.
You'd have to skip the right episodes, which would be the shoe episode.
Episode 2.
Definitely skip episode 2. Skip the treasure hunt episode. Not the Nazi treasure hunt episode. The other one, the Mexico episode.
Well, that did have the letter in it.
Oh, it did have the letter. You can't skip that one. The letter was consequential.
If you missed it, you could understand where it came from.
But can the average network TV viewer do that? And I'm going to say no.
Yeah. I mean, if you're expecting people to just kind of be flipping the channels and stop on it, then no, that doesn't
They're
work.
not going to stick around because they're going to look at this and think, I don't know what the hell's going on here. And I think that we're hardwired to watch TV in a different way.
That's the way the world works these days.
But who's watching
serialized.
network TV? You know?
Strange New Worlds is the one show that finishes their story in 42 minutes and says, come back and watch a different one next time.
And it's a beautiful model. And there are episodes of Quantum Leap, new Quantum Leap, that managed to do that. But season 2 in particular asked, I don't think it's a big ask, but I can see someone like my parents.
The audience today.
I think people like my parents who might actually happen across this show at 9 p.m. on a Monday or whatever would look at it and be like, nope, I got no idea.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to say that my parents are like a Nielsen family or anything.
But
do not judge my parents' viewing habits as any sort of basis for anything in modern society. But I'm thinking of people like that, you know?
Yeah, no, it makes a good argument. How do you build an audience if they're already behind?
If you missed the first 10 minutes of a Law & Order episode, can you still tune in and just watch the rest of the episode and get the gist of what's going on?
Sure.
The answer's yes.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I think.
It's like comic books. It gets too big.
Yeah.
Oh, I've already missed 6 episodes of this. I got no clue what's going on. But that's what streamers are for.
The old mantra with comics was write every issue like it's somebody's first issue. And somewhere along the way, we really lost the thread. Somewhere around Brian Michael Bendis, we really lost the thread. And it became actually, you're going to have to read all 6 of these issues to understand what's going on. And then we'll start a new story. I think it's asking a lot of the kind of audience that it needed to cultivate to warrant continuing. Now, I don't know what the streaming numbers did for it. I kind of wish this was just a Peacock exclusive show.
Well, I kind of feel like that's what streaming was for, though. If you tune in and you think, well, this is interesting, let me go catch up on it. Mm-hmm. They have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
If they really had wanted to.
And I wonder what those numbers look like. Mm-hmm. I have no idea what the streaming numbers look like. I guess
not enough. I do feel like there is something structurally wrong with this show. The other thing that struck me, even as much as we enjoyed watching season 2, and you can tell me if I'm off base here because I don't know if I'm exactly hitting the target, but it might also be that no one's willing to watch an optimistic show because they put a dark turn on season 2. There was a very dark underlining tone to season 2. And when you go back and you look at 4 or 5 seasons of the OG show, it was about how can things be better.
It took us 5 seasons to get to the dark undertone of the original Quantum Leap.
Yeah, and even then, I mean, as dark as it was getting, it was still about at the end of the day. I mean, what are you referring to, like?
I'm referring to the Evil Leaper shit.
Oh! I thought you were going Lee Harvey Oswald, which was
that was
dark.
Episode. That was dark, but nothing in Lee Harvey Oswald betrays the core conceit of what Quantum Leap is. The Evil Leaper stuff,
it's
that's like,
just wrong.
You look at it and you're like, what the hell is this? This is not the show.
We'll never get the answer to that. We thought we might.
Yeah, I guess.
We never did.
I guess that's the big regret. So that would be another question. Throughout the season, I've occasionally brought up the group that I troll, which is the subreddit for Quantum Leap.
Right.
finger on the pulse of the fan community with each episode. And I mean, the opinions have been all over the place since this show started. You've got your stalwarts like Nate, who really loved the original series and had a really hard time adjusting to the Adventures of Ben Song.
A really hard time adjusting. Okay.
You've got people who were very happy with aspects of this new series that I both agreed with or perhaps disagreed with. Fan theories, things like that. So I've been on this group and reading and kind of participating here off and on.
I really love how you characterize my
Trying to soften the
fandom
blow.
for this show. Well, you've
Again,
kind
I
of
don't
had
want to
a
kick a
hard
dead
time
body.
adjusting, Nate. That's fair.
So I posed a question to the Quantum Leap subreddit that was asking everybody if they had any thoughts that they'd be willing to share about their memories of the show, something they'd missed the most, that sort of thing. What did they enjoy? What are they taking away from this?
I follow some of these fan communities on Facebook, which is more of a cesspool than Reddit, maybe. It's hard to know.
Probably. I think
So-
I think there's an exclusivity to Reddit. Normies don't really use it. Gen Pop is in Facebook.
Oh, general population. Oh, yeah. I just assume that I don't know what's going on the internet.
That's a fair assumption.
But so I've got a couple of fan groups, and I thought, well, if you're doing that, you know what? Maybe I'll throw it out too and just see what kind of responses we get
All right.
from people out there. Maybe we should answer the question ourselves first.
Yeah.
What do you miss, Brian Martin? What are you going to miss?
I think the feeling that this show was really capturing something in season 2, that it was doing something special, that it was making it work. I'm talking about Hannah Carson, really, like, more than anything else. I'm missing.
That was my first answer, but we were going to miss her anyway.
So I don't mean Hannah Carson as a person. I mean Hannah Carson
Okay.
as a concept. This character that exists throughout time and keeps interacting with him throughout history. That was such a shot in the arm for this show that it made me really excited to see what they would do next. Whatever they were going to do next.
Okay.
It showed to me that they can do something that's more creative, more endearing than what we got in season 1, and something that really makes me want to tune in week after week after week. If you can keep that momentum going in season 3, that's great. Would they have? I don't know. But I was really excited to see what they were going to come up with next, honestly.
Right. Not to judge you here, sir, but that feels a little bit like a cop-out. Only because we're all missing what could be.
All right, well, then I would say I'm going to miss Mason Alexander Park, but hopefully they're going to go finish whatever they have to do on Sandman Season 2, and we're going to get that going on Netflix soon enough. So
yeah,
we're going to be seeing Mason Alexander Park again as Desire, and I cannot wait for that.
Yeah, they're going to be okay. I don't disagree with what you're saying, though. My first thought when the question was posed to me was Hannah Carson.
Okay.
But I was going to miss her anyway.
Yeah.
She wasn't going to be in season 2. That was clear. Her story was done, and the idea she served no purpose except to get Ben and Addison back together, whom they broke up at the beginning for only the reason to introduce Hannah Carson.
What would the
It's
equivalent
very
of a
cyclical.
May-December romance be? Because that's what they are. You know, they're like a May-December, but it's like, what would you call it in their case? A 1950, 1964 romance? I don't know.
Yeah. I think that she was so lovely, and I was so enamored with that story and the idea of love across time, which is the story they thought they were telling in season 1. Right?
Yeah.
And they weren't. It was kind of a mess. And then they hit the nail on the head with Hannah Carson. And that's kind of a cop-out on its own because, yeah, she wasn't coming back. So what do I miss about this show? I think that I'll miss seeing Caitlin Bassett on television every week.
Yeah.
Actress that deserves other roles. I hope she picks something up.
Got to get like an NCIS or something going. Like, she's got to.
I think most of these actors deserve...
Put her on Jack Reacher.
She could fit in on Jack Reacher.
Here you go.
I think most of these actors deserve something else.
Oh, boy. Who doesn't? I'm just kidding. You don't have to answer that.
Yeah, no, we know what that is. I think that seeing Raymond Lee on television every week, I mean, this is a very engaging person. Even when we
Really
didn't
is.
like the story, we liked Ben.
Yeah. He
You know?
really, really is.
Yeah, so I'm going to miss seeing them on TV every week. And you know what? I'm going to miss Nanrisa Lee only because the thing I enjoyed wholeheartedly about this podcast was giving her a hard time week after week after week. I did not let up on this character and this actress, and I guess I feel a little bad about that now.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that was some of the most fun that we had, was just getting angry.
Some of the most fun I had was watching each episode and trying to pinpoint, oh, Nate's going to hate this. And it was always a Jen moment. Yeah,
you know.
We'll miss Jen.
Yeah, I'll miss that. But I think that points to what I was saying earlier, which is that they just didn't have the structure right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Then they had to work within that, because what were you going to do, fire 3/5 of your cast?
And let's be honest, Ernie Hudson probably would have been in that 3/5. And what you got to realize about Ernie Hudson is that he's almost 80 and he's a complete stud. You can't get rid of him. If you got Ernie Hudson, you keep him on your cast. You don't cancel his show.
I don't know, man. I think they got themselves handcuffed. This show needed to be trimmed down quite a bit.
Sure.
You know, as much as I enjoyed season 2 and, the supervillain origin story, it's cool. But also, we had to accept it as a different Quantum Leap.
That's the whole thing.
It's putting a dark undertone under what was supposed to be an optimistic outlook on the future.
I do like the idea.
It's the Star Trek Discovery of Quantum Leap.
That's a good way to put it. I know we talked about this early on too. Is like, can a purely optimistic show sustain itself? Right. One of the shows we mentioned early on was Picard. As a show that we were looking at, Picard, he is
garbage.
the optimistic captain in Starfleet. Right. He's calm. You would follow him into anything. Right. And then we come back with Picard, the show, and it's weird and dark and hostile and everything you thought you knew is wrong, and it's like the tone.
And the only person you want to
mess.
stand up against all of that is a feeble old man now.
Yeah. Really, really rough there for a couple seasons, right? So, I don't know. Maybe you're onto something about like this sense of optimism not really breaking through or having a harder time breaking through with an audience that I guess just wants to wallow in misery.
They want to watch Chicago Med, people dying in an OR room, I guess. I don't know.
Better them than me. But
what does the gin pop say exactly?
I did, again, pose this to Reddit. Had a few users who commented on it. Now, I want to be clear. I haven't read any of these in their entirety. In glancing through them, it seems like we're all over the place in terms of responses. So here's what we got. User CurrentWeird4227 said, I am going to miss what could have been. This is kind of
that
what
was
we were talking
your
about.
answer.
The ending to season 2 and really most of the season itself was so good and got me excited for what stories they were going to tell. Totally with you. That's kind of where I'm at too.
Mine are actual names, though. I think I'm going to skip reading mine.
Yeah, mine are all username.
Yeah.
I want to give these folks shout outs because they really came through on some of these. MDF7793 said, although many people didn't, I identified strongly with both Addison and Ben for various personal reasons. Naturally, I also love them together. I feel like I've had to say goodbye to two friends just as they are hitting their stride. I am most going to miss spending time with them.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So check this one out. This is from user Peach Button. I am watching anger, denial, bargaining, depression, and acceptance all happening at once on this server. But I feel like I haven't even had time to grieve yet. Nate, you'll relate to this. And I do too.
I thought she was speaking directly to me. No.
I waited 20 years for this. It happened. If not precisely the way I wanted, then in a way that I still really valued. It meant a lot to me every week. Then they ripped it away from me like I always knew they would. I feel anger without any surprise. I feel acceptance that the world is a cheat.
Good for you.
Damn, Peach Button. I hope you're doing better. Hang in there. Hang in there. That's all I can say.
I've got one here. Let me
go ahead.
Let me
You
jump in.
do
I've got
one.
a few myself here from a Facebook fan group, and I'm going to try and dodge around the ones that are just hateful for the purpose of being hateful. Great storylines, wonderful ensemble of actors, amazing special effects, terrific chemistry amongst all of them.
Okay. All right.
I mean, that's very general, but for sure.
But I get
Okay.
it. Yeah, yeah.
The continued adventures. I was really invested in the characters. Those are the kinds of things you want to hear about your show, right?
Yeah.
I think after this disaster of season 2. Ooh, okay. Here we go.
What disaster are
You
they?
ready?
Okay,
All right, here we go. Are we ready? Let's dive into this.
Okay,
one.
okay, go for it.
I think after the disaster of season 2, sorry, but the time jump to 2025 and Ben and Addie moving on to new people only to get them back together was lost time.
I don't disagree.
We might have gotten an awesome season 3 of Ben and Addie changing history, and maybe, just maybe, we get some digging into what happened with Sam, or
boo.
maybe get some appearance of Sammy Joe. Hopefully, there will be no HQ stuff. Sorry, this show is not QCIS.
Wow. Okay, so that went in a direction I didn't expect, and I ended up agreeing with a lot of it.
Yeah, it started out pretty evil, didn't it? Yeah, I don't know about Sammy Joe. Like, all these people that want to bring the OG show back.
I got over all of that.
I did pretty quickly.
And I'll tell you what did it. I'll
but...
tell you what did it. Once we realized that the show is not Quantum Leap as we knew it, my interest in seeing Sam and Sammy Joe and all of these people pop up in it waned completely.
Yeah. I don't know if I would have wanted to see them in this iteration of the show.
Yeah.
I feel like when this show came out, I wanted it to be a good revival of what I knew, right?
Sure.
And we talked about on episode 1 who's going to be the gatekeeper, and then later we decided it was me.
Later? Like later in that same episode, maybe.
Maybe later in that same episode. But as time went on and I discovered, okay, well, this isn't that show, and I need to start watching it for the show that it is, I got to a point where I could enjoy it. Now that the show is done, I feel like if they had done the original or tried to meet that formula, maybe it would have worked, or maybe I would have liked it better.
Okay.
So I see where this person was coming from.
Okay. Yeah.
Should I read one more? Or
Yeah,
you
go ahead, read one more, and then I'll
All right.
do a couple.
I like seeing what was going on at the project. I think the end of season 1 and season 2 handled it much better, except for the last couple of episodes, which were mainly project stuff, and the leap was an afterthought. I'm going to miss the show.
Okay.
I kind of agree with that as well.
We talked a lot about that, especially early in the show where the leap seemed ancillary, like that wasn't the focus of this show at all. The focus was solving the mystery of why Ben leaped. It's not really about the leaps or changing things. We had to get to the beginning of season 2 before the change history for the better even became a factor.
Right. And funnily enough, as I'm reading these out, I just got a notification of a laugh emoji on my question post. All right, what do you have over there?
Senor Descartes says 2 words, Raymond Lee. Dude was fantastic from the jump and really embodied the values Sam Beckett stood for. Also, super handsome / charming / funny. I think he's going to have a big career going forward. Yeah, I agree with that. Very charming
I agree
guy.
too.
South End Girl, buckle up, Jen and Ian. They were hilarious, especially Jen when she was the hologram. So I think this one was me trolling you.
That's just you trolling.
Yeah, my Reddit username is South End Girl. No, it's not. Hey, I mean, but that's the beauty of it. That stuff may not connect with us, but it's connecting with somebody. Is it connecting with a broad general audience? I guess not enough, but...
Yeah, but who do you play to then?
Right.
Is it just all over the place and some people are going to like it and some people aren't?
Yeah.
That's really kind of funny.
This is a good one. Yoga Lady says, I will miss the creativity and originality of this show in contrast to all of the police, fire, and crime dramas that are on every network. I will miss the break from reality TV and all the tacky people seeking fame and influence. I enjoyed the peeks into historical periods and events and the creative costumes. I love the humanity of Ben, and yes, I enjoyed the romance between him and Addison and the introduction of Hannah. I loved Ian. These shows don't come around very often, and it's too bad that they aren't valued more, but I suppose that's why there is cable. That pretty much sums up the first half hour of our show tonight.
Right in league with us from earlier, for sure.
The last one I've got here, and then it takes a turn.
Takes a turn.
From Tenbatsu Z, the updated special effects. Janice Calavici, who didn't get the screen time I would have liked. Ian Wright, even though I disagreed with Ian's worldviews, I still really enjoyed the character very much. And this goes back to what I was saying about Ian's value on the show. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
So I appreciate that perspective. And last but not least, Hannah Carson, such a great romance that literally spanned a lifetime. I spent a lot of time trying to bridge the changes in this version with the original. In fact, I thought I had the fix figured out, but like magic, it leapt away. See, the very first thing Ben and Janice did was change the project coding. I believe Sam wrote it to stay within his own lifetime to avoid potential paradoxes. Sam's code entangled his body with those in the past, leaving the visible image of them overlaying his own. This is getting really deep into the weeds.
Yeah, but it's also really pretty good.
I like
actually.
it, yeah, which really worked out for those he was helping because he had the physical strength of an adult male, as opposed to the physical strength of a limping man. Ben and Janice's code removed those paradox safeguards and altered the quantum entanglement, housing Ben's body inside/in between the atomic structure of those he leapt into and letting him leap before and beyond his own lifetime. At least that was my working theory, until Magic spoke about his experience with the leap. Stating the effect he experienced were the same as those Ben leapt into. This broke my altered code theory, and I could no longer reconcile the two versions properly. That was episode...
I think he did a fine job.
That was episode 4. I want to just throw that out there. But this user ends. Still, I liked it, and I'm sad it's going away.
That's a good post.
I
right
love
there.
that.
That's somebody that spent some time thinking about it.
Yeah.
For sure. Good for them.
Yeah.
Based on the way that started, I'll read this other one. The time wasted on what was going on back at the project and not focusing on the leap is what ruined it for me. They should have made Janice the hologram
Ooh.
and dumped Ian altogether.
Wow.
It might have saved it, in my humble opinion. I'm glad they're humble about it. That's...
Agree to disagree.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree more with that one. And I've got one here that just says Nanrisa Lee.
So
they got a thumbs up.
Oh, okay.
So
we know what your thing is, buddy.
Man.
All right.
How about nothing? The original couldn't be remade since it was perfect in every way.
Did somebody write that?
Yeah.
I would hesitate to say perfect, but, I mean, we wouldn't be here if we didn't have a very, very soft spot in our heart for Quantum Leap. None of us would be here.
It's close to perfect. What?
There are 3 Evil Leaper episodes.
Okay, all right, you got me. Fair.
There are some swings and misses in the original series.
Oh, yeah. I guess if we were talking about bad show, I guess I was just thinking of the concept.
Oh, conceptually, you can't do better than that. But that's kind of why we did the Highway to Heaven episode. That was a concept you got a lot in the 80s. It's like this wandering guy and his sidekick.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then that kind of gave way to now everything's a procedural. And I guarantee you that's why we get so much present day at the project stuff now. So Reddit user BigWaveDave18 says, I was just hoping they would bring Sam back. Full stop.
All right, yeah.
Were you just hoping that? I don't know.
I mean, I've got one of those here too, probably more than one. This is what we were talking about a little bit earlier, that just, you're missing the point of both shows.
Yeah. User SD2528, what I will miss most is the original series. Here we go.
Good for them.
I'm going to be honest, I enjoyed the reboot, but it wasn't great. It won't leave a lasting impression on me like the original did. I think that's true. I mean, I think as far as a cultural touchstone, it obviously doesn't have the traction to leave that sort of cultural impression.
No. 2 seasons of a canceled show, it's going to go by the wayside.
Which is a shame, because I do think that second season is very good. Soft Concentrate, 489. What will you miss most? Nothing.
I've got one of those myself.
The show wasn't good at all and had zero nostalgia of the original. The writing made absolutely no sense. It was more of a coworker soap opera. Should not have been named Quantum Leap, to be honest. Okay.
There's not a lot I can argue there.
No, I mean, that's the thing.
If you're gonna
Everybody's got good points.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're going to stand on a debate stage with this person, I don't know where you counter that argument.
I find no fault with your arguments, sir.
Yeah, exactly. Yet, for some reason, I disagree.
I think we kind of accepted early on. This is a different show. It's not Quantum Leap. This is a totally different thing.
I see. I've got one, too, that says the hope that eventually Sam would be involved in getting back home. Probably the last one I'm going to share here. Oh, I do have one that says Mason Alexander.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, good for you.
Watch The Sandman when it comes back to Netflix. And if you haven't watched season 1 of The Sandman, watch that. And also, if you didn't watch the live-action Cowboy Bebop on Netflix, watch that too, because Mason Alexander Park is also in that.
Oh, really?
And I know none of your asses watch that show.
I watched the first one, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'll go watch
Mason Alexander Park shows up as Gren, who is the gender-ambiguous character that shows up in the middle of the original anime series, like around episode 12.
I think they may be typecast.
Possibly. Very possible. I've got a couple more here.
Okay.
Robrick18 says, I'm going to miss this show, but also this community and the theories we came up with each week about what was coming next. I know lots of people have complained about the future storylines, but they really made this community and the theories about Leaper X and Hannah and the mole and Ian's girlfriend's boss so fun. That's nice, you know, like, that's what we're talking about. That's the great thing about shows. Whether they are popular, whether they only appeal to a small niche of us, at their best, they bring us together, they give us something to engage with, they give us something to talk about. And I definitely saw that in the subreddit here. And of course, it gave us something to talk about every week, which has been fun and enjoyable. And the last thing I've got here, Marty Tram 1983, tell your fans to write to NBC Universal to find another home for the series. Makes a good point here. It worked for Manifest, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Lucifer, Futurama, and many others in the past, so I'm sure we can do it again. Hey, it's possible. Manifest and Lucifer didn't have super long runs before they ended up migrating to other services. I feel like most of the cast of this show knows it's game over.
Yeah, I think it's done.
From their posts and everything.
Probably also has something to do with ownership, and this is such an NBC-based show.
Sure.
I have a little bit of experience in this where somebody's just holding on to my intellectual property. The Tokyo Pop book that I wrote, Riding Shotgun.
Right,
oh,
yeah.
You know, check it out.
Yeah.
They're holding on to that and doing nothing with it, but because something could happen, they're just holding on to it.
Right.
And the same is going to happen with Quantum Leap. They're never going to give up Quantum Leap.
No, and I
as a
sincerely
name.
doubt this is the end of the road for Quantum Leap.
Give it 15 more years.
It may take another 15 years or so, but I think networks, they recycle this shit all the time. Like, we wouldn't have gotten the Quantum Leap continuation if it weren't for that. And Quantum Leap, just as two words strung together in a title, is too good to just release into the wild.
That's where my book came from.
Yeah.
Riding Shotgun. It was just a title.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. What I always say, you got to start with a title and a tagline, baby.
Yeah.
If you don't have those two things, you got nothing.
Yeah, you're done.
Speaking of having nothing, Nate, we are out of new Quantum Leap to talk about on this show.
Well, I did spend money on a novel.
Oh, that's true.
You still gonna read this book?
Yeah, that's funny. You got the novel
Do I
as soon
have
as
to
the
read
show
this
got
book
canceled,
still?
and
Yeah.
now you got to read that book, or else you're just going to be out the $150 that it took you. Probably took more to ship it to you, honestly.
$4.95. Thank you.
That's pretty good. So, what is next for us, guys? We know Quantum Leap is over, but we are not going anywhere. We've done episodes in the past that touched on other time travel stories, such as Source Code, such as The Time Traveler's Wife. Some of them good, some of them not great at all. But we are going to continue on, specifically narrowing the focus to time travel stories. What are you going to do with yourself and your time now that Quantum Leap is gone? Well, hopefully you can listen to us, keep on listening, and revisit some old favorites, find some new stuff to watch and engage with. We will occasionally return to Quantum Leap as far as Sam Beckett and Al Calavici go. Nate mentioned a particular novel that we will be perusing this summer for an episode probably in August, but
Oh, you've given me a deadline on when I have to finish.
somebody's got to set a deadline for you, Nate, or
Yeah,
it's
all
never
right,
going to get
fair.
done.
Fair.
But yes, we will be continuing on looking at various time travel stories, so you can
Ev-
fill the void left by Nanrisa Lee's absence in your life.
And, I think this opens a lot of doors, avenues for us to explore new and fun things. And the main page of our website says something to the effect of acquaintances becoming friends over the course of time. And, it's taken 50 episodes, but I think we
did it. We did it, folks. We did it. They said we couldn't, but we did it.
Who said that? Where people were rooting against us from the beginning, but we showed them.
Someday I want somebody to write a post like some of the ones we read tonight, but about our show.
Yeah.
The show wasn't good at all.
I liked the OG.
These two chuckle fucks don't know the first thing about time travel.
Well, at any rate, I want to keep going. I think there's enough out there to keep going, which is a little ironic given that we argued from the beginning that Quantum Leap is not a sci-fi show. It's a drama.
Right. Well, try telling these people that.
Oh, true.
Some of them think it's a
Very
drama.
True.
Some of them think it's too much of a drama.
We've got a lot of topics already lined up that weren't Quantum Leap based and were largely time travel based. And we can still hit those marks and start looking at new things. And I'm kind of excited about that.
Yes, it's a new frontier. And by that I mean the same old frontier of time travel, but new stories. And they're always making new ones too, so there will never be a shortage of time travel stories.
I promise to bring a jar of olives. I'll pop them open, eat over the microphone. It's the same old thing.
As long as there are people out there lamenting their fourth quarter pass during that high school football game, there will be time travel stories.
We'll be back. I hope you'll come back and listen.
For sure. Well, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for going on this journey with us. From
50 episodes.
50 episodes, most of which were about this new Quantum Leap that we all watched. If not loved. If not loved. And of course, Nate and I didn't always love it, but man, I'm going to miss it. I am absolutely going to miss it. But we're going to keep going. Like we said, subscribe to the feed so you never miss an episode. And if you have uncles that wish they could go back in time, or maybe just friends in your life who like time travel stories or want to learn more about it, not the concept of time travel, because I don't know jack shit about that, but I can tell you about the stories. Tell them to subscribe to our podcast. We're also available on YouTube in an audio format. You can like, comment, and subscribe there. You can send email to us if you've got a story or a show or a book, or if you yourself traveled through time. We can turn into Coast to Coast AM, I guess. Send us an email at ohboyqlpod@gmail.com. Find us on social media. I'm CAPTNBERN, Captain Byrne on Blue Sky, and Brian.Lee.Martin on Instagram and Threads.
And I am at Action Nate on both Blue Sky and Threads.
And, folks, thanks for listening as always. Again, I'm Brian.
And I'm Nate.
And one more time, we'll be here in the waiting room.
For the last time?
I mean, this was it.
Is this always going to be the waiting room?
No.
We're waiting to the end.
This is it.
This is it.
Yeah, that was the waiting room.